she miscarried. She publicly posted the pictures. They were heartbreaking pictures. Fast forward 2 years to right now, Chrissy Teigen announces that she recently realized that her miscarriage of 2 years ago was actually an abortion.
If there's a medical procedure in that context, it's not an abortion. And it is the law in all 50 states, and it should be the law in all 50 states, that doctors can intervene to save the life of the mother, even if it means tragically losing the child. That there is nobody, even the most robust pro-life advocates, nobody argues that when the woman's life is in danger, that you can't take extraordinary medical steps to preserve the mother's life. And so in those circumstances, she may want to characterize it as abortion in this political context.
Because it is an abortion, and that is the definition of what an abortion is. Why is it always the staunchest pro-life advocates that you wish were aborted the most? That's probably why people like Ted Cruz are so against a woman's right to choose her own future and make decisions for her own body, because he's probably always aware that anyone who meets him thinks, you should have been aborted, dude. So he's trying to save others from that fate that he probably himself should have endured. I mean, what a disingenuous, lying person. It has always been referred to as an abortion, even when it's to save the life of a mother. And now, because there's backlash to your party getting what you've wanted all along, to overturn women's rights and roll back the state of equality in this country, you're now saying, it's not even an abortion when it's to save a woman's life. Yes, it is. And Ted Cruz lies yet again when he says that even the staunchest pro-life advocate is okay with these procedures when the mother's life is at risk. Not true in the least. An Atlantic article recently published makes it very clear, quote, anti-abortion rights groups like Pro-Life Wisconsin have described the life of the mother exception as unnecessary and wrong. The Idaho GOP just approved a platform with no life-saving exception. Republican candidates like Matthew DePerno, the Republican running to be Michigan's Attorney General, oppose all exceptions to abortion bans. That includes to save a mother's life. Conservative states are rushing to eliminate or narrow existing exceptions to their laws. Powerful groups like Students for Life, Feminists for Life, and the American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists, also known as APLOG, which, again, not a good acronym, just don't have an acronym sometimes, that's fine. APLOG? Come on. Argue that, quote, abortion is never medically necessary and that doctors should always be punished for intentionally taking a fetal life, which is talking points that are already making its way all the way through the GOP ranks. I will show you a clip in a moment where Charlie Kirk said the exact same thing in my debate with him until, with my superior debate skills, got him to admit that he's still okay with it, and in a way that proved the exact reason why women should be allowed to have abortions at any phase pre-viability if they so choose, because of the reason that I get him to agree. So stand by. The Washington Post also said that most abortion bans that are enacted now in this country do not include exceptions for rape and incest, which is unconscionable and just horrible beyond belief. And they continued, exceptions for the life of the mother are vague and leave many physicians wondering whether they must choose between breaking the law or breaking their oath, which is again the big problem here. Once you create a legal restriction on something that is often necessary, it makes doctors fear for their own license or even criminal penalties and jail time if they are going to provide even life-saving care to women. This is ridiculous, this is insane, and this is the cause of people legislating who don't know what they're talking about, who are making rules for women when they are not themselves women and can never know the experience or what a woman might go through. Yet they have these exceptions. Oh, there's an exception for the life of the mother. Once you allow an exception, you're admitting that this is something that is okay to do sometimes. And it can't just be the times that you, as an old white legislator, decide it's okay. Because the hypocrisy on this issue is insane. And if people finally stopped being so hypocritical, we might be able to get the already overwhelming percentage of Americans that are okay with the woman's right to choose and do believe in it, to get even further and finally convince some of these GOP legislators to get off of their high horse. Here are 3 examples from an article called The Only Moral Abortion is My Abortion, from When the Anti-Choice Choose by Joyce Arthur. And she collected stories by talking to abortion providers and doctors and physicians, and here are 3 that I thought were very interesting and notable to show you the hypocrisy of people when it comes to issues like this, and how sad and disgusting it is that they do not honor a woman's right to choose when it comes to their own life circumstances, but only their own. The first one, quote, "I have done several abortions on women who have regularly picketed my clinics, including a 16-year-old schoolgirl who came back to picket the day after her abortion about 3 years ago. During her whole stay at the clinic, we felt she was not quite right, but there were no real warning bells. She insisted the abortion was her idea and assured us it was all okay. She went through the procedure very smoothly, was discharged with no problems. Routine operation. Next morning, she was with her mother and several schoolmates in front of the clinic with the usual anti-posters and chants. She got the abortion she needed and still displayed the appropriate anti-views expected of her by her parents, teachers, and peers." That's a physician in Australia. Next, a physician in Texas. Quote, "The one that really made an impression was the college senior who was the president of her campus Right to Life organization, meaning that she had worked very hard in that organization for years. As I was completing her procedure, I asked what she planned to do about her high office in the Right to Life organization. Her response was a wide-eyed, 'You're not going to tell them, are you?' When I assured her I was not, she breathed a sigh of relief, explaining how important that position was to her, and how she wouldn't want this to interfere with it. Well, God forbid should your actual hypocrisy interfere with your right to keep preaching something that you yourself don't practice. Somebody with morals might actually have that change their position and go back to their group and say, I was wrong, but I guess not. And lastly, a clinic escort in Massachusetts said, quote, "In 1990 in the Boston area, Operation Rescue and other groups were regularly blockading the clinics, and many of us went every Saturday morning for months to help women and staff get in. As a result, we knew many of the antis by face. One morning, a woman who had been a regular sidewalk counselor went into the clinic with a young woman who looked like she was 16 or 17, and obviously her daughter. When the mother came out about an hour later, I had to go up and ask if her daughter's situation had caused her to change her mind. Quote, "I don't expect you to understand my daughter's situation," she angrily replied. The following Saturday, she was back, pleading with women entering the clinic not to murder their babies. Oh, of course, when it's your daughter, you couldn't possibly understand her situation. Is she so unique? Is she the Virgin Mary, impregnated by accident or by God against her will? I don't think so. She's probably just a regular girl that got pregnant and didn't want the babies, seems more likely. You're okay with it when it's your family, but not when it's other women across the country. It's disgusting. So now, speaking of disgusting, let's go to a disgusting person. Charlie Kirk, who I debated on the topic of abortion, and you can see the full debate in the link in the description below this video on YouTube, if that's where you're watching it. But there's two clips I'm going to show you. One, where I ask Charlie Kirk. He's talking about third trimester abortions, and I make a point that I think is important to note.
Did you know, since you love throwing stats at me, that less than 1% of cases is it a third trimester abortion, and those cases are almost always when it is the life of the mother or serious abnormalities that the child would not survive.
So if it's
in
less
which
than,
case I'm not against
if
it.
it's less than 1%, then we should be able to abolish it. And now the Texas law, which you have been a big critic of,
Yes.
is at 6 weeks. 6 weeks, which we've already stated the facts. At 6 weeks, the child's eyes, eyelids, nose, mouth, and tongue are formed. That sounds like a human being, not a
No,
dolphin.
the shape of them, they're still webbed, they're still sitting there. I don't know how
So-
boring your life has been,
so let me
but
ask you a
life
question.
is not this. Sitting in gel, floating. That's not life. Life's out in the
So
world.
let me ask you a question.
Life's out in the world.
Over
Maybe this is
500
why you go home and you just chill at home like,
Over 500,000 people are currently hooked up to a machine and comatose. According to you, being a webbed person or being somewhat non-human is okay. Should we just pull the plug of all of them?
No, because developed living human beings are different than ones by your own terms are not living. Let me quote you yet again. You said on your YouTube, quote, Planned Parenthood conducts 300,000 abortions a year.
Yes.
That is
300,000 murders.
And then the second part of the sentence, that is 300,000 lives that never had a chance to exist. By your own words.
You know what I mean by
no,
that.
I
to
don't. By
fully
your
exist.
own words, you said embryos and fetuses do not exist. It's your words.
this hateful moron just spews talking points without even understanding what he's saying. If it's less than 1%, we should be able to abolish it. What does that mean? What does the amount of it have to do with whether something's morally right or morally wrong? And then, of course, walks into it when I quote himself back to himself and say that you yourself acknowledged that an aborted fetus never had a chance to exist. But the clip I'd like to end on is this.
Let me ask you a question. You're so against abortion and protecting lives,
I'm very pro-baby.
but you are okay with abortion if it saves a woman's life. Why?
So actually, I will clarify that. That's so exceedingly rare. And in fact,
Great.
over 1,000 OBGYNs, nurses, and neonatologists signed a declaration stating, quote, as experienced practitioners and researchers in gynecology, we affirm that direct abortion, the purposeful destruction of an unborn child, is almost never medically necessary to save the life of a woman. So in the extraordinarily rare case, which is so hard to find and pinpoint,
Well, it's not so hard to find. It happens, and there's many
very rare. Well, these
millions of
1,000
documented cases.
OBGYNs say no.
That's great, and there's a lot that say yes, and it happens, and you're aware it happens. So try
But,
not to use a distracting statistic.
well-
You're okay with it in those rare instances. Why?
Because there could be other children in the future that could be
Right.
born.
That's my whole argument.
However,
if a woman's
it's
not ready to have a child now, there could be other children in the future
But
when they are ready to
I
raise them
will even
successfully
correct,
in life.
I will correct my own previous statement.
There you have it, folks. Charlie Kirk is okay with abortion in certain circumstances because a woman can have a baby later when she's more ready for it, which is exactly the whole point. So I guess we've got a new pro-choice person on our hands. Obviously, he doesn't see it that way, but everyone should if they actually listen to themselves, listen to their hearts, listen to their own morals deep down and realize they're not really against it. They're just against it for politics. It's pretty gross, but that's the way of the Republican Party these days. I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. Like I said, you can watch my full abortion debate against Charlie Kirk on my YouTube, youtube.com/bgleib, or just search Gleib Kirk Uncut Abortion Debate. And that, of course, includes the infamous dolphin fetus clip that went mega viral. And check out my new stand-up comedy special, The Mad King, on YouTube. Thanks.